Lil Boosie and Duke093 concert full story. Did Boosie have something to do with it, or did he not, like he's saying he is? Actually, we just got the full details. Here's the whole story. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you always get posted when we drop some news, and hit that like button. Let's get right to it. So Boosie was hosting a concert that night. He had a lot of fans coming out, a lot of rappers coming out. Plies was there. This all happened in Houston, Texas. So basically, Duke093, he's a jeweler coming out of Chicago and everything like that. Now, he was at the dice game the day before, and he had won lots and lots of money. And Boosie said in that Vlad interview that he actually was going to make a piece for him. So after that whole dice game, next day, the concert thing comes around. So Duke was trying to figure out who's he going to move around with, what security he going to be around. Is Boosie going to let him ride with him to the whole concert? That's when he goes to Boosie and asks the question. Actually, Boosie turns around and says that he cannot ride with him and that he has to follow him behind his main car. So that's exactly what happened. As they're going to the concert, Duke093 is following behind Boosie's driver. Now, when Boosie and his driver get to the venue, this is at Stadium, okay? And once they get to the venue, they get to the gate, the security lets them in. But for some reason, when Duke goes to that same gate, even though he's been following Boosie and his driver for the whole entire ride, he could not enter into that same gate parking lot. He had to go to the parking lot that was right next to it. So he enters, parks his car, and goes up backstage. They watch the show. Duke had the jewelry. He was trying to show Boosie, what pieces that he was going to let him wear to go do the shows. But now, once the show gets over, Duke is going back to his car. Everybody's going back to their cars. It's a lot of people outside, a lot of people in the parking garage. Now, apparently, this is where everything takes a twist for the worse, because this is when allegedly the reports came in and Lil Boosie said that Duke was in the parking garage and that he was actually in that same parking garage. And when Duke was walking to his car, that's when a group of guys jumped out from that black truck and stuck him up for everything. They ended up firing at him, taking his jewelry that he had in a duffel bag. They were Louis Vuitton bags, and they skirted off in the GMC truck. Now, that's what the reports are saying, allegedly. They still ain't found nobody yet, and nobody said they know anything. So this is where Boosie comes back and says that at first, he wasn't even around Duke when this happened, and he wasn't even in the same parking lot. But then, once he goes and says what he says in his interview, he actually goes and tells that he was in the parking lot and that further away, they could hear exactly what happened and the shots echoing in the distance. So, if Boosie was close enough to hear everything that happened, then that means he was only maybe within a few hundred feet from what happened. Could he have seen exactly what happened? Did they see the truck? Who knows? Did they know who happened? Because a lot of people are coming out and the whole internet saying his cousin and this and that, and Boosie might have had something to play with it. Maybe he didn't have to do anything himself exactly, but he could have influenced, he could have told somebody to do something reckless. But that's where the situation is sitting at now. Everybody's looking at Boosie, and Boosie's coming out, and Boosie came out on Instagram to try to clear his name. He tried to let everybody know exactly what's going on. But when he came out on the interviews and when he came out on Instagram, his body language, the way he was yelling, the way he was screaming, it made it look like he was even more guilty than what they thought he was, or just because he came out. So they should have officially just made a statement or something like that instead of him coming out and yelling on the live, because that just made him argue and go back and forth with more people who still thought that there was an ongoing thing going on. And so a lot of people slam Boosie saying, why did he even speak on it? And for him to call out the promoter's name and say that he was there and he's the one that found the body and everything like that, a lot of people think that he was snitching for saying that, or that even the fact that he talked about it, that he was basically talking about an old open case, and that caused him, a lot of people, to put the rat emojis in the comment section. So now there's still a lot of people who think, Boosie may not have had nothing to do with it. It's still an ongoing thing and they figuring it out. But by the way, when you look at it and you just, look at how all the stuff is laid out in front of you, and you see it for yourself, you would kind of think and be rubbing your head too and scratching your head too and thinking like what actually happened, because how could the stories change up? First, he's not there with the guy in the parking lot. Then he is there in the parking lot, but he can only hear it. If you can hear it, you might have been able to see it. The parking lot is, 35 feet wide and 300 feet across. So if you're standing in some point, you might be able to see all the way down to one end, all the way down to the other end. But once the CCTV footage comes out, you're going to be able to figure out exactly how far away Duke's car was parked from Boosie's car, what Boosie was doing exactly at that time, who he was talking to. Did he talk to anybody in the black trucks during the whole thing of the concert? Was that they're going to go back and look at the CCTV footage of the mansion that they had, they had an Airbnb with that dice game. That whole mansion, that Airbnb has the CCTV footage. And they're going to go back and look at that and see if that black GMC truck was actually parked at that dice game. So they're going to reverse, pinpoint, and engineer all the footage and reverse it back to see the guys that they might be able to get if they was at the corner store getting their backwoods with no mask on, riding and pulling up in that same truck. They'll be able to figure out if they just watch that truck and run it backwards until they catch the dudes who hopped out, if they look like they're the same ones on the footage at that concert venue. So now they got the subpoena for all the footage. They're going around to all the businesses everywhere around that entire venue, everywhere around that entire dice game place to try to see if they can put something together. But that's basically what they're working on right now. But as you could tell, a lot of people want that footage to be released. Everybody wants to see that footage. Why haven't they released the footage? So if they release the footage, you'll be able to kind of get a better idea of exactly what went on, and you don't have to have no back and forth between Boosie and between everybody else. So that'll save everybody the time. Now, there's a reason that they're not dropping the footage. They got to hold on to the footage for a while. They might, who knows, they might edit it. They might not edit it. They might just have to have a third-party company buy it, because when you really try to get footage of things, it's always owned by a third party. The building owners, the business owners, they don't own the footage. It's the security company that owns the footage that put the cameras up. So they have to buy the footage from the security company for $800,000, maybe $1 million. Maybe that's why Boosie needed $1 million to go and buy the footage. And so that's one thing that somebody was saying. And another thing is that he really could have had to pay the $1 million, because that's going to be like hush money or whatever to get him out of the trouble. Maybe he got in trouble or something like that from people that know Duke, and that he might have had to pay them $1 million to make sure that he can clear everything off his name or get their trust back. So the whole situation looks fishy. How did he need $1 million right after the dude passed? How is this whole thing? And the dude had $1 million. What was taken? Where are the bags at? Where's the jewelry? Are they? Because there's still people who could be going around. Maybe they sold the jewelry, and the people they sold it to is going to melt it down in a whole nother city, a whole nother state. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of more details to come out. So we're going to have another breaking news story coming out on the next one. And so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, and comment your thoughts below and your questions below. I'll catch you on the next one.